We're going to go over the briefest of summaries in obligatory knowledge. In fact, this is immediate knowledge. The immediate knowledge is even less than all of the obligatory knowledge. And I'm not going to go into details here. We're just going to cover, we're just going to unravel the words here, inshallah ta'ala. And then you would be able to say that if you complete this, you'll be able to say, I completed the immediate knowledge. And so I'm just going to read, and I'm not going to go into details. Insha'Allah ta'ala, the author says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Introduction. Praise and thanks are due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. We seek His help in our worldly and religious affairs. May Allah raise the rank of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the seal of the prophets, and his his family, and his chosen companions. There is no protection and there is no strength except by Allah. There's no protection from sin and there's no strength to obey except by the help of Allah. There is no protection from sin and there is no strength to obey except by the help of Allah. Al-Ali al-Azim. Al-Ali means the supreme, and Al-Azim means the great one. Thereafter, surely the knowledge is a light, and ignorance is loss and confusion. Among what is blameworthy and dispraised is for the accountable person to accept for himself the state of abject people. For an accountable person to accept for himself the state of the low people, to be like the low people, and the state of forsakenness. And that, among what is blameworthy and dispraised is for the acceptable person to neglect acquiring the immediate knowledge, which is the obligatory knowledge. So I saw it appropriate to compile this summary. I hear Sheikh Samir. He said, so I saw it appropriate to compile this summary so that it would enable one to understand this amount of personal, obligatory religious knowledge in the shortest time possible. So this booklet is even shorter than the summary of obligatory knowledge. But it has what the summary of obligatory knowledge doesn't have also, meaning there are some details in this small booklet that are not in the book of obligatory knowledge. Sheikh Samir said, I have named it the briefest of summaries on immediate knowledge, according to the school of the Shafi'i masters. My reliance is upon Allah, and to Him I turn. Chapter of Convictions. Section Islam and Iman. The greatest matters of Islam are five. That's what some people call the pillars of Islam, the greatest matters, Islam's greatest matters. The testimony that no one is God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, that means to say the Shahada and believe in it. Performing the prayer, that means all prayers on time validly, so you need to learn what that entails. Giving the zakat means paying the zakat, fasting Ramadan, and seeking out the house. That means going to the Kaaba, performing the Hajj for whoever can make their way there. That's literal translation there. Seeking out the house. That means performing Hajj. The greatest matters of faith are six, as you know: the belief in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, the last day, and in destiny, whether good or bad. So that's all very basic. Of course, Yani, I think that's clear for you. This, so far, all this talk is the most basic of talk. So, can you name the five most important matters of Islam in order? And can you name the greatest matters of faith in order also? Even though the order is not a condition, but the order has a reason. That's the order that came from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So if you can, then praise Allah. And if you can't, then you need to study. That means some very basics, some very basic basics you don't have good grip on them. Section: the meaning of no one is God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Yani the meaning of the Shahada. The meaning of La ilaha illallah, no one is God except Allah, is that no one has the power to create except Allah. Creating means raising the non-existent into existence. Yani making something from nothing. Creating substance with qualities. Bringing substance with some qualities into being from nothingness. And rendering that substance back to nothing again. That's creating. So the meaning of no one is God except Allah is that no one has the power to create except Allah. And this dictates that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah. So saying La ilaha illallah means no one has the power to create except Allah. That's the statement of Al-Ash'ari. And saying La ilaha illallah means no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah. That's the statement of our Shaykh, rahimahullah ta'ala. And the closer one of these two statements, the closer of these two statements is the first one. No one has the power to create except Allah. Why I'm saying it's the closer one? Because the one who deserves to be worshipped is the one who creates. So if we were to say La ilaha illallah means no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, this would imply that Allah creates. So saying then that La ilaha illallah means no one has the power to create except Allah is closer. And saying La ilaha illallah means no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah is like skipping a step. Saying something that includes this first one. The meaning of Muhammadur Rasulullah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, is that Muhammad, son of Abdullah, son of Abdul Muttalib. So it didn't go further here as far as his lineage is concerned. The Hashemite means he's from the clan of Hashem. The Qurashite means he's from the tribe of Quraysh. Is the slave of Allah and his messenger to all the creation. And all the creation means humans and genies. To all humans and genies. He is the slave of Allah means he is a slave man of God. Yani God has created beings that are called his slaves. He has slave men and slave women. And these slave men and slave women, they are humans and genies. But what's special about these humans and genies? They have minds. They can think. They're not animals. And Muhammad is one of those. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is a slave man of God. Yani, a creature of God that has a mind. He was truthful in all that he informed about. That's clear. Whatever he conveyed, any revelation he conveyed is true. And he didn't make any mistake in his conveyance about it because he's a prophet. It says, and among that, all right, so I'm not going to change the words, but it might be smoother to say, that includes the torture of the grave and the enjoyment therein. So we're obligated to believe in torture of the grave and enjoyment of the grave. Torture of the grave is for non-Muslims and for sinful Muslims. Non-Muslims torture in the grave will be until his body decays. Sinful Muslims torture in the grave will stop before his body decays. And the torture of the grave includes the grave squeezing the person until his ribs crisscross. And also a window being opened in his grave showing him his seat in hell, his designated place of hell. And other things. We're keeping it brief here. And the enjoyment of the grave includes the grave expanding and being illuminated and having the fragrance of paradise and other things. And it also includes the questioning by the two angels, Munkar and Nakir, yani their interrogation of the dead person. After the dead person's soul goes back into his body, these two angels will come to him and interrogate him. It's obligatory on us to believe that these angels will interrogate the people in their graves. But this is special to the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the interrogation of the angels and of the people in their graves. This didn't happen to the people of other nations, of other prophets. This didn't happen to the people of the nations of other prophets. But they still had enjoyment of the grave or torture of the grave. But they didn't have the interrogation of the grave. And this includes believing in the angels. They are beings made of light, neither males nor females, having wings, at least two wings and at most 600 wings, and being assigned with tasks without ever making mistakes in their tasks. Those tasks include bringing revelation to prophets and interrogating people in their graves and installing souls into fetuses and uninstalling souls from people whose appointed death times have come and other things like taking care of paradise, being in charge of hell, and many, many other things. And this includes believing in prophets. Prophets are male humans who receive revelation, and revelation is news from God. If a prophet received laws, then he's called a messenger. And this includes believing in books, the books revealed to some of the prophets. Not all prophets received books. So don't believe that every prophet came with a book, because it's not the case. And believing in Judgment Day. This means we must believe that there shall come a day when Allah Ta'ala makes the dead people come out of their graves. And then they will be judged for their acts in this earth. And then, on that day, they will be processed into paradise or hell. That day is 50,000 years long. And we have to believe in the resurrection. That's for the souls to reunite with their bodies, and then for the person to come back to life. If that person's body had decayed, then his body will recompose. So if his body decomposed, it will recompose, and then the soul will go back into it, and then the person's life will return, and he will be alive on Judgment Day. The same person, the exact person, Yani, me, I will be present on Judgment Day. And you, with the body you have right now, Yani, when I say the body you have right now, I mean the body you have, you're going to come back to life on Judgment Day. How would you do? How would you be? You're going to be however you died. So if you live to be an old man or an old woman, you're going to come back on Judgment Day like that, as an old man or an old woman. If you died as a teenager, or you died in your 20s, or you died in your 30s, however you died, that's how you're going to come back on Judgment Day. The gathering, that's for the humans and genies, and even animals to be herded together. The animals will be herded together, and the humans and genies will be herded together on Judgment Day, gathered, assembled. So it will be so crowded on that day, because all humans who ever lived will all be present at the same time in the same place. And the genies will be there too. And the animals will have their own reckoning on that day. And the presentation of the deeds, that's for the record that the angels have been keeping on you, to be presented to you. So you know that now, while you're alive, uh, unless you're a child, or you're insane, or you're sleeping, the angels record everything you do. So a record is being kept on you. That record will be presented to you on Judgment Day. That's the presentation of the deeds. And the reward and the torture. You said, so everyone is different ages on the day of judgment, and where and how would the person who gets cremated return on the day of judgment? Just like what I said to you. What I said to you includes all of that. So the answer is yes. Yani, you're going to come back however you die. That's that's the case. So, Yani, for myself, for example, I'm not going to come back as 20-year-old man. I've passed that already. I didn't die yet. If someone died as a 20-year-old man, he's not going to come back 40 years old. He didn't make it that far. And where and how would the person who gets cremated return on the judgment day? Where? On earth. All of us will be on earth. This earth is where the people come back to life, but it will be a reformed earth, not like not like how we see the earth now. It will be this earth, but it will be reformed, so it will look different. So the cremated person, Allah Ta'ala will bring his body back. Yani, didn't we say if his body decomposed, it's going to recompose? So what's the difference? There's no difference, really, isn't it? If his body decomposed means he dried up, he fell apart, he turned into dirt, he got ate by worms and anything else, and beetles and anything else that's crawling around in there. They swallowed pieces of him and defecated him out, and he gets scattered by the winds. And then after some time, maybe some people dug up his grave, and his particles scattered even more. And then they put a new grave in there, and so what's gonna happen? Yawm al Qiyamah, Allah Taala will restore him, will recompose him. He will come back to life again, and his body will be reformed, and his soul will go back into his body, and he'll be alive again. So we have to believe in, Wafiq, Judgment Day and the resurrection and the gathering and the presentation of deeds and the reward and the torture. The reward is the compensation given to the obedient slave of God that pleases him, the compensation that pleases him. And the torture is the compensation given to the, or the payment given to the disobedient slave of God, that compensation that distresses him and bothers him and harms him. And we have to believe in the balance or the scale, which is a balance that has two pans on which the good deeds will be weighed against the bad deeds. We're obligated to believe in that. If somebody denies that, he's a kafir. Good deeds will be weighed in one pan against the bad deeds. If the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds, then you shall enter the garden with no torture. If the bad deeds outweigh the good deeds, then if Allah willed, He will forgive you, and if He willed, He will punish you if you're a Muslim. A kafir, though, he will only have bad deeds. So his pan of bad deeds will be the heavy pan, the pan that goes down. So his pan of bad deeds will most definitely outweigh his pan of good deeds, and he shall be in hell forever, unless he wasn't accountable. And if one's good deeds and bad deeds are equal, then he will have to stand on the wall and wait while other people enter the garden. There's a wall, it's called Al-A'raf. There's a surah in the Quran named after this wall, Surah Al-A'raf. Some said this wall is a wall between paradise and hell. And some said this wall is the wall of paradise itself. Those whose good deeds and bad deeds were equal have to stand on this wall, and they cannot enter paradise with the first batches who enter. They see believers going into paradise, and they wish that they could be going in too. And at the same time, so Yani, that bothers them because they want to get in there. But at the same time, they're not being tortured in hell. And they can see the people being tortured in hell. When they look to one side, they see the people in hell, they see their dark faces and their dark eyes, and then they beg Allah for protection. And when they look to the other side, they see believers entering the garden, and they say, Assalamu alaikum, while the believers are going into the garden. And then eventually they're going to be allowed to go in. Did you ever have to stand on the wall at recess because you were a bad kid? Yeah, and you had a bad day one day at school, so you couldn't play. You had to stand on the wall. Subhanallah. And we have to believe in the bridge, as-sirat. Subhanallah. We have to believe in the bridge, as-sirat, which is a bridge that goes from the reformed earth over hell to the land of paradise. We have to believe in this bridge. It's wide and slippery, and no kafir will be able to pass it. And only believers can pass it, and they don't pass it by the strength of their bodies. They pass it by their deeds. تَجْرِي بِهِمْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ. Their deeds make them run. That's what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. Such that some of them will fly over that bridge. And those who fly over it, some of them go faster than others. Some fly over it as fast as the blink of an eye. Just imagine that. You're on one side of this bridge on Earth. And just, for example, like, how can I snap my finger? Like that, you're going to be on the other side of that bridge. Due to your good deeds. And some people will fly over that bridge as fast as a bolt of lightning. And some people run over this bridge, and some people walk over it, and some people crawl over it. And the intercession we must believe in. This is for some of the slaves of Allah, like prophets, angels, practicing scholars, battlefield martyrs, and children who died before puberty, and whomever else Allah willed to have the permission to seek forgiveness for some sinful Muslims. And we have to believe in hellfire. That's a place that Allah created for blasphemers to torture blasphemers and sinful Muslims. It's presently created. It's 70 years deep. Its fire is pitch black and fueled by stones and people. And we have to believe in paradise, or heaven if you want, or the garden, which is the place that Allah prepared for those who died as believers. In there, they will enjoy forever. They never leave that place. The believers who enter hellfire will eventually leave there. They don't stay forever. Only kafir stays there forever, not a believer. And as for those who enter paradise, they never leave there. And we must believe in the everlasting stay in both paradise and hell. Everlasting stay for believers in paradise, and everlasting stay for blasphemers in hell. So, like we just said, as for believers in hell, they don't have an everlasting stay in hell. They have a temporary stay in hell, no matter how long they might be there. Then they will come out and they will enter the garden and stay forever. And we must believe in the believers seeing Allah Ta'ala with the eye. Yani, seeing Him with the eyes in their faces. Without a manner of being. Yani, without God having any shape or form. And without a place. Without Allah being in a place. Yani, so they don't have to look to the right or to the left, or up or down to see Allah. They will see Him not being anywhere. They will see Him although He's not anywhere. Because He does exist, but He doesn't exist in a place or a direction. He will enable them to see him because he exists, and they won't, in order to see him, they won't have to look right or left or into the distance or close or anything like that. And we have to believe that the prophets are impeccable, yani, protected from falling into blasphemy. So I think that's clear. Trying not to go into details. Protected from falling into blasphemy. No prophet would ever commit blasphemy, nor would a prophet ever commit major sins or one major sin. They are protected from major sins, and they are protected from small sins that reflect low character. That's correct saying. Some scholars said they are protected from all sins like angels are protected from all sins. That's weak saying. Someone says that, he's saying it was not haram for Adam to eat the fruit, it was permissible. He's saying that fruit was lawful for Adam, not haram. So that's a mistake there. And we have to believe that the prophets are impeccable before receiving prophethood and after receiving it. So even in their childhood, before becoming prophets, and after they received the prophethood, they were impeccable. The religion of all the prophets is Islam. The first of them was Adam, and the last was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you have any question, go ahead. So I'm skipping so many details here. We wanted to just to explain this paragraph, we could take long time. So just take this as a review for yourself if you haven't. If you've already learned the obligatory knowledge. Section: the best of obligations. The best of obligations is the belief in Allah and in His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that means believing in Allah and His Messenger is greater than performing prayer, and it's greater than keeping ties with kin. It's greater than being good to the people. If you ask some people, they would say, all that matters is that you're a good person. That's not true. What mostly matters is that you believe in Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the greatest of sins is blasphemy with all of its different types. But really, blasphemy is one thing. Blasphemy is one thing. It just appears in different ways. Blasphemy is like a shapeshifter. Problem with a lot of people, they can't seem to get a grip on what is blasphemy. They can't seem to identify it. But maybe it helps you to know that blasphemy is one thing. You might say it, or you might believe it, or you might do it, or you're committing it might be because of atheism, or you're committing it might be because of contradicting the religion, or you're committing it might be because of comparing God to the creation. At the end of the day, though, what is all of that? Blasphemy. So identify blasphemy. Learn how to identify that, what you call that person, that entity, which is blasphemy, so that you won't be confused when something comes from someone's tongue, or something comes in someone's writing, or something comes in this way or that way, or this form or that form. You can say, oh, that's not blasphemy because you know what blasphemy looks like. You've identified him. No, that's not blasphemy. Yeah, that is definitely blasphemy. This one is, and this one isn't. That's how you want to be. You don't want to be somebody who has to always ask, is this blasphemy? 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 You don't know what's blasphemy? There needs to come a time when you don't have to ask this question all the time. Or if you do have to ask, it's going to be far and few in between, because you know what blasphemy is. The worst of blasphemy is atheism, denial of God's existence. And the ugliest is apostasy. Ugliest means has the strictest rules and most repulsive. Ugliest doesn't mean worst. Is apostasy, which is for a person who was a Muslim to go out of Islam. And it is of three divisions. Blasphemy is of three divisions. Convictions, that means you believe in something, that's blasphemy. Sayings, so that means you're pronouncing something, that's blasphemy. And doings, that means you're acting. Your action is blasphemy. And each division divides into many branches. There's subcategories under these. Among the first, which is convictions, meaning the blasphemy from the heart, because conviction is in the heart, is the doubt in Allah. So he doesn't know, does God exist or not? That's blasphemy. Or his messenger. So he says, is Muhammad the prophet or not? Then he's a kafir. He's doubting here. That's the blasphemy. Or the Quran. So he says, is the Quran the revelation or not? Is the Quran intact or it's tampered with? All of this is blasphemy. And denying an attribute of Allah that is necessary to be attributed to him by consensus. Any one of the 13 attributes that we're going to talk about, I'm not going to say them now. Denying any of them is blasphemy. And attributing to him what is necessary to clear from him by consensus, like a body. Believing he's a body is blasphemy. It's necessary to clear him from that. And sitting. And really, when he says like a body and sitting, there's a lesson here, because those two are approximately the same thing. Because if he's sitting, if he's sitting, that means being seated, having a seat, then he's a body. So why mention it twice? Yani, one might say this one is included under that one. Why twice? Because saying he's a body is explicit in is both of them are explicit, but saying he's a body is direct attribution of volume to him. And saying he's sitting, someone might say, I said sitting, I didn't say body though. So that's the difference there. Sitting implies that he's a body. Being a body, he could be standing or he could be laying down. It doesn't have to be sitting. If he's sitting, he is a body though. So somebody might say, just because I said he's sitting doesn't mean I'm saying he's a body. Yes, it does. And also contradicting any prophet, saying the opposite of what a prophet said. Here, this is a very important case. Contradicting a prophet. Contradicting a prophet doesn't mean here saying something inaccurate. A lot of blasphemy questions are confusion about whether something is blasphemy or not because it's not true. So someone said about a man, He's pregnant. They say, is this blasphemy? Why are you saying this blasphemy? Did you find here? Did you find an ayah in the Quran says? I'm not saying men get pregnant. I'm trying to make you understand rules of blasphemy here. Did you find an ayah from the Quran that says men don't get pregnant? Okay, I don't think you did. Did you find a hadith of the Prophet that says men don't get pregnant? I don't think you did. Okay, so now supposing someone said about a man, he's pregnant. So that's why that means to you that now he's calling the Prophet a liar, because blasphemy means, all blasphemy basically is saying Prophet Muhammad's a liar. All blasphemy basically goes back to saying Prophet Muhammad is a liar. If someone said this man, or said about a man, he's pregnant, that means he's saying Prophet Muhammad is a liar? Doesn't necessarily mean he's saying Prophet Muhammad's a liar. And if he said about a man, he's pregnant, could mean, the statement could mean he has a big belly like he's pregnant. He has a big belly like he's pregnant. Because people talk like that. Like, didn't the Prophet say, uh, any woman who goes out any woman who goes out perfumed so that the men can find her scent, then she's an adulteress. She didn't even do anything, Yani. I mean, as far as the zina. So when he said she's an adulteress, it means she's like an adulteress. Doesn't mean she's really one. Someone said about a man, for example, he's pregnant. So he could mean maybe his belly is fat like he's pregnant. So it doesn't mean he's saying Prophet Muhammad's a liar. Or someone said about a man, said, man, you're a girl. So some people would say, huh? Well, we need to ask about this. Is this blasphemy? Why is blasphemy? Is he saying, when he called this man a girl, is he saying Prophet Muhammad's a liar? It's not saying Prophet Muhammad's a liar, or implying that Prophet Muhammad is a liar. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So blasphemy includes contradicting any prophet or belittling him, and also denial with knowledge of a matter that is known in the religion by necessity, that is not hidden from the person. Denial with knowledge of a matter that is known in the religion by necessity, that it is not something, yani, this matter is not something hidden from the person. Like he said, prayer is not obligatory, or fasting is not obligatory. Or he said, marriage is forbidden. Or he said, selling is forbidden. Then all that's blasphemy. Because this is denial with knowledge. Yeah, and we're assuming the speaker knows. Denial with knowledge of a matter that is known in the religion by necessity. By necessity means it's common religious knowledge. Which Muslim doesn't know that marriage is not haram? All the Muslims know marriage is not haram. Or what if someone said pig meat is lawful? That's blasphemy. Even the non-Muslims know that Muslims believe that pig meat is forbidden. So blasphemy includes denial with knowledge of a matter, yani denial of a matter that is known in the religion by necessity. And it's not something hidden from the person. It means he knows. And denying destiny. Denying destiny is blasphemy, like to say there is no destiny. That's blasphemy. Or like to say God does not create everything. That's a denial of destiny. Or like to say I make my own destiny. That's blasphemy. All of that's blasphemy. And saying I make my own destiny is a denial of destiny, actually. And the determination to blaspheme in the future. Determination, yani, or the word decision really is better. The decision to blaspheme in the future. So decision means right now I decided what I'm going to do later. I've decided. So the decision to blaspheme in the future is blasphemy immediately, not later. And the creed of dwelling and the so-called absolute oneness. Yani, in our times, some people came up with a term they call God bodies. God bodies. That's the creed of dwelling. They believe that they are God with the meaning that God is within them. Or they believe that they are some embodiment of God. That's blasphemy. And that's a type of atheism, actually. That's a type of atheism. And believing in the so-called absolute oneness, this is pantheism. Pantheism. This means believing that God and the world are one and the same. And pantheism also is a type of atheism. Among the second type of blasphemy, the actions, is prostrating to an idol, even if you're acting, or prostrating to the sun or fire, and throwing the book of the Quran in the trash while knowing what it is. We seek refuge with Allah Ta'ala. And among the third is saying to a Muslim, oh, blasphemer, without having a meaning behind it that saves one from blasphemy. This is another case here, like what I was telling you about. What if someone said to a Muslim, you're a kafir, and he means you act like a kafir? You need to be able to recognize this type of talk. When the Prophet said, any woman who goes out perfumed so that the men can find her scent, then she's a adulteress. Means she's like an adulteress, not really one. And there's so many statements like that, that if you know about them, you're not going to be confused about blasphemy. So someone said, he's pregnant. Don't say, blasphemy. Don't rush like this. Without having a meaning behind it that saves one from blasphemy, like the example I just gave you. Yani, when he says, you're a kafir, means you act like a kafir. Just like someone might say to a male, you're a girl, means you're a sissy. You act like a girl. Yani is just like, for example, someone sloppy might say, you're a pig. So what if someone called someone a pig and say, this is blasphemy? It's not blasphemy. So if he called him a kafir, and he means you act like a kafir, then this is haram, it's not blasphemy. And belittling any name of Allah before that. But if he calls him a kafir, and he means you are a real kafir who's not a Muslim, and he has no confusion here, he doesn't mean you act like a kafir, and he's not confused about whether a major sin is blasphemy or not. We're not talking about a person who thinks that suicide is blasphemy, or he thinks that drinking wine is blasphemy, so he's confused. Then we're going to teach him. We'll say, that's not blasphemy. Don't say that anymore. Just say, that's a major sin. Don't say it's blasphemy. And we're not going to call him a kafir, although he called someone a kafir unrightfully. In this case, he was confused. So the one who doesn't have any such confusion, and the one who's not comparing someone And he's not even calling him by the name of what he used to be. That would be haram. Like if he said to a convert from Judaism, "Hey Jew," he means, "Hey you who used to be a Jew." That's haram, not blasphemy. And also belittling any name of Allah Ta'ala, or belittling Allah's promise or his threat. His promise is to admit the believers to the garden. His threat is to torture the disobedient. Belittling that, like to say, oh, paradise is a baby toy. Or saying, hellfire, that's where the fun lovers are. I'll go there because the fun lovers are there. So that's belittling his threat. And this relates to the person for whom it is not hidden that these matters pertain to Allah, are attributed to Allah Ta'ala. And belittling Islam is blasphemy, or belittling the Kaaba because it's a sign of the religion, or belittling the Quran, or belittling the religious law, yani the sacred law. All of that is blasphemy. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. We'll stop there.